The moment I entered the ballroom, her voice cut through the chatter like a shard of glass. Sloan Whitmore, my brother's porcelain fiance, leaned into her circle of bridesmaids, a champagne flute dangling from her manicured fingers. The whisper was meant to be heard. "Oh, wonderful." The smelly farm girl decided to show up. A ripple of designer-clad giggles followed. She didn't even glance my way. To her, I was just a stain on the silk of her perfect evening, something unfortunate that had wandered in from the pasture. What Sloan didn't know, what no one in this glittering room knew, was that I owned the ground beneath her overpriced heels. I signed the deed to the Monarch Hotel 3 years ago, every crystal dripping from the chandeliers, every thread in the Persian carpets, every bite of canapé on her gold-rimmed plate. It was all mine, and by the time this night was over, her careless whisper would cost her absolutely everything. My name is Bethany Burns. I'm 31, and I grew up in Millbrook, Pennsylvania, where the biggest event of the decade was when Old Man Henderson's cows staged a rebellion on Main Street. I left at 18 with one suitcase and $200, not because I hated home, but because home, specifically, my family, made it painfully clear I didn't belong. My brother, Garrett, was the prototype, the golden son. My mother, Patricia, had a way of looking at me like I was the rough draft she never meant to save. So I left. I took a bus, a job cleaning rooms in a boutique hotel, and a vow to never look back. For years, they pictured me in a studio apartment eating ramen. They weren't entirely wrong, at first. But while they weren't looking, I was learning. I studied the business from the floors up, literally. I saved, invested, and built Birch Hospitality from a dream into a portfolio of 6 boutique hotels. The Monarch is my crown jewel. Building something from nothing teaches you the power of silence. Let people underestimate you. It's the greatest advantage you'll ever have. So I never told them. To my family, I was still the struggling little sister, forever in the shadow of Garrett and his middle management insurance job. The irony was a rich, thick layer I chose to wear quietly. I got the last-minute invitation, a guilt summons from my mother. No doubt, I almost didn't come, but a stubborn thread of hope, or maybe just morbid curiosity, pulled me here. That hope died the second I walked in. I stood in the entrance of my own hotel in jeans and well-worn boots, my hair carrying the faint, honest scent of hay from the drive through Millbrook. My understated outfit probably cost more than Sloan's entire ensemble, but true money doesn't need to shout. You can take the girl out of the country, but the country gives you a bone-deep understanding of value and how to quietly collect it. My mother found me first. Patricia swept over, her smile tight. "I'm glad you could make it," she said, in a tone that meant the opposite. Her eyes scraped over my boots. "Couldn't you have worn something suitable? The Whitmores are very refined." She stressed the word like it was a foreign concept I needed decoding. "Came straight from work," I said. It wasn't a lie. I just didn't specify that work meant reviewing quarterly earnings for a multi-million-dollar company. She sighed her patented sigh of perpetual disappointment and melted back into the crowd. Garrett found me next, already looking past my shoulder. "Beth, you're here." He said it like he'd noticed a familiar painting on a wall he usually ignored. "Have you met Sloan? She's incredible." "I've observed her," I said mildly. Then he delivered the blow with a bland smile. "Mom gave Sloan Grandma's necklace. Wasn't that generous? Sloan loves it." The air left my lungs. Grandma's necklace, the antique pendant promised to me on her deathbed, for her dreamer, her fighter. My mother had been in the room. She knew, and she gave it away. I looked across the ballroom. There it was, glittering around Sloan's neck like a trophy. Needing air, I slipped into a hallway. That's where I overheard Franklin Whitmore, Sloan's father, his voice a strained hiss into his phone. "Just need the wedding to happen. The Burns family has the capital to stabilize our situation. Once we're through the ceremony, it's all manageable." He hung up, and his public smile snapped back into place like a rubber mask. I stood frozen. What money? My parents' house had a second mortgage, one I'd been secretly paying for 4 years. Garrett's salary was comfortable, not colossal. There was no family fortune. Unless the anonymous monthly payments from Birch Hospitality, the medical bills I'd covered, the mortgage I'd kept afloat. My mother, in her eternal narrative, must have credited it all to her golden boy, Garrett. She'd spun a tale of his secret success, and the Whitmores had bought the fiction. They were con artists who'd stumbled into a mirage, and my family was the dry oasis. The pieces clicked into place with a cold, final sound. I found Wesley Crane, my unflappable general manager, by the service entrance. "Wesley," I said quietly, "I need everything you can find on the Whitmore family, fast." He simply nodded. "Consider it done, Ms. Burns." An hour later, Sloan herself cornered me near the restrooms. Her public sweetness evaporated the moment we were alone. "I know about the money you send home," she said, her voice a venomous purr. "Trying to buy their affection from your little hovel? It's pathetic." She leaned in. "Garrett told me everything. How you've always been jealous. How they just tolerate you." Her smile was a knife slash. "I'm marrying into this family. It would be better for everyone if you just faded away. You're dead weight, Bethany." She patted my arm with false pity and glided off. I almost laughed. She thought I was the charity case. She had no idea she was insulting the landlord. Wesley reappeared, his face grave. He handed me a tablet. "You need to see this. It's not just debt. They're under federal investigation for fraud." The story unfolded in emails, financial records, and court filings. Franklin and Delilah Whitmore, or whatever their real names were, ran a Ponzi scheme, a house of cards built on phantom real estate. Investors were circling. The SEC was closing in, and they were months from collapse. This wedding was a desperate life raft. And my unsuspecting family was about to be pulled under. Part of me wanted to let it happen, to let my mother's willful blindness and my brother's neglect meet their deserved consequence. But I couldn't. Family is a stubborn knot, you can't always cut it, even when it chafes. Garrett was still the brother who'd taught me to skip stones on Miller's Pond. I had to stop this. My phone buzzed. A text from Garrett. "Can we talk? Something feels off about Sloan." I looked at the time. 5 minutes until Franklin's grand, welcoming toast. Too late, Garrett, I thought, but not too late for me to fix it. I texted Wesley 2 words, "Ready the screens." Then I walked back into the roar of the party, a calm settling over me. The stinky country girl was done being overlooked. It was time to show the wolves in designer clothing exactly who owned the henhouse. The metallic weight of the USB drive felt solid in my palm. On it, a digital confession, every incriminating document from the folder, the damning timeline from Naomi, the court records from Arizona, and photos of Sandra Williams from 3 years ago, a decade of lies, compressed into a small, cold rectangle. I pressed it into Wesley's hand. "When Franklin starts his speech, run it." He took it, a faint, anticipatory smile touching his lips. "I always suspected working for you would be eventful. This exceeds expectations." He disappeared, a ghost moving toward the control room. My phone lit up with Rebecca's confirmation, all verified. Federal investigation active. Lead agent Carla Reeves en route with team. ETA 9:15. Will coordinate on your signal. Perfect. The mechanism was wound. Now, the waiting. I found a shadowed column near the back of the ballroom, a perfect vantage point. Sloan was a vision in white, her laughter a calibrated chime. Garrett beside her, the picture of proud oblivion. My mother and Delilah Whitmore had their heads together, 2 matrons sculpting a future from thin air and manipulation. Soon, one would see her investment vanish, the other would see the daughter she'd dismissed holding the reins. 8:52. My phone vibrated against my thigh. "Garrett, where are you? Need to talk. Something's off with them. Franklin's too jumpy. Sloan's stories don't add up. Am I crazy?" I stared at the words, a dull ache beneath my sternum. 34 years of being an afterthought warred with the memory of the brother who'd once carried me home on his back after I'd skinned my knee. He was finally listening to his instincts. Just a lifetime too late. A warning now would be a kindness he hadn't earned. It would also risk everything. I typed back, my fingers cold. "We'll talk after the toast. Just wait." 8:59. Franklin ascended the small stage, a king claiming his temporary throne. The DJ faded the music. A hush fell. Glasses poised. My eyes found Wesley's across the sea of heads. His nod was a barely perceptible dip of the chin. The screens behind Franklin glowed with curated bliss, Garrett and Sloan on a beach, at a vineyard. their happiness a fiction soon to be overridden. "Good evening, friends, family," Franklin boomed, his voice slick with sincerity. "We are so honored you're here to celebrate the union of our beloved Sloan with this remarkable young man, Garrett." He spoke of legacy, of families blending, of prosperous futures. Each word was a bead on the string of their con. I pulled out my phone. Franklin raised his champagne flute, his face a mask of paternal joy. "To the happy couple, to love, to family, to forever." I tapped send on the single, loaded word, "Now." The screens flickered, the beach photo dissolved. In its place, an Arizona Superior Court seal, then a case number, and a name in stark black type, Sandra Williams. A confused murmur rustled through the crowd. Franklin's smile stiffened. A technical hiccup. He chuckled. "Too loud. Someone fix that." The screen changed again. Financial ledgers, arrows showing money flowing into void companies. A news article headline, "Phoenix Real Estate Dream a Nightmare for Investors." Then, the photo, a younger Sandra, hair darker, smile sharper, arm in arm with Franklin and Delilah at a gala, the caption naming them as the philanthropic Millers. The murmur became a roar. Sloan stood statue still on the dance floor, the color draining from her face, leaving her expertly applied blush a garish streak. Garrett looked from the screens to her, his expression crumbling from confusion to dawning, horrified comprehension. Franklin abandoned the microphone, shoving through guests toward the exit, Delilah clawing at his sleeve. Two broad-shouldered members of my security team materialized, blocking their path. That's when I stepped out of the shadows. My boots were steady on the marble as I walked through the parted crowd. The whispers chased me. "Who? What's happening? Is that the sister?" Wesley's calm, amplified voice cut through the chaos. "Ladies and gentlemen, the owner of the Monarch Hotel and CEO of Birch Hospitality, Miss Bethany Burns." The silence was a physical force. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Garrett looked utterly shattered. Sloane's terrified eyes locked on mine, seeing a stranger where she'd seen a speck. I took the microphone from where Franklin had dropped it. My voice, when it came, was clear and carried to the corners of the frozen room. "Apologies for the interruption. I believe in transparency, especially when it concerns the people about to marry into your family." I gestured to the evidence still cycling behind me. "The Whitmores are frauds. Their wealth is stolen. Their daughter, Sloan, is Sandra Williams, a con artist with a decade-long history of separating people from their life savings." "Liar." Sloane's shriek was raw, primal. "You jealous, pathetic nobody. You're destroying this because he chose me." I met her fury with a placid smile, a curious accusation. "Did I also fabricate the federal investigation that's been tracking you for 2 years? Or the fact that Agent Carla Reeves and her team are currently outside?" As if summoned, the ballroom doors opened. 4 agents in sharp suits entered, badges gleaming under the chandeliers. The crowd gasped as one. Franklin tried to bolt. Agent Reeves, a woman with steady eyes and a no-nonsense bun, caught his arm with effortless authority. "Franklin Whitmore, or whatever you're currently calling yourself, you're under arrest for wire fraud, securities fraud, and conspiracy." Delilah's wails were a broken soundtrack of denial. "It's a misunderstanding. We can explain." But Sloan, Sandra, only had eyes for Garrett. Her mask dissolved into pure, theatrical pleading. "Garrett, please, you know me, you love me, don't let her do this." Garrett looked at the woman he thought he'd marry, at the evidence on the screens, and finally at me. The war in his eyes resolved into a bleak, clear defeat. He took a physical step back from her. His voice, when it came, was hollow. "I don't know you at all." Her desperation curdled into instant, venomous rage. She lunged for me, nails like talons. "You ruined everything. You were just the stinky." Security intercepted her, her beautiful dress twisting as they restrained her. I stepped close, my voice for her alone, a low whisper beneath the room's chaos. "This stinky country girl owns every brick, pays every salary, and will sleep soundly tonight knowing exactly who she is. You'll have plenty of time to remember who you are." As they led her, spitting and struggling, from the ballroom, I turned back to the sea of stunned faces. The ice sculptures wept, the champagne fountain bubbled obliviously. I lifted the microphone again. "Well, the canapés are paid for, And the band is still on the clock. The bar, I'm told, remains open. A beat of silence, then a nervous, collective release of breath. The DJ, seizing the cue, dropped into a smooth, upbeat jazz standard. The engagement party was over. The reckoning had just begun.